Hello, everybody. On behalf of San Jose State University, our College of Health and Human Sciences, and our School of Social Work, we just want to welcome you to today's session. It is about our MSW program and a Q&A, and we are hoping that folks had the opportunity to review the materials that are already posted on our website, as well as the informational session that was recorded, and then the previous Q&A session that had already been completed a little while ago with that recording. So we wanted to just thank you, whether you are joining us synchronously live or if you are listening to the recording. Thank you so much. We also understand that for the session today, lasting about an hour and a half, quite a bit of information. We won't be offended if you play us back on the recording at, 2 times speed or have to scrub through the recording to figure out what the questions and the answers are to what you're interested in. All that is fine. We understand. Okay? Before we start, I would like my colleagues to introduce themselves and so that we know, who is going to be helping to co-host this session. And I'm going to ask Dr. Thomas to please introduce herself first.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for spending the afternoon with us. I'm Dr. Thomas. I am the school coordinator, the undergraduate and graduate advisor. I'm here today because I also lead the master's admission process at the School of Social Work. Again, I'm excited to see all of you here.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas. Dr. Price Wolf, would you go next, please?
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Price Wolf. I'm an associate professor in the School of Social Work, and I'm also the MSW program director. Nice to see everyone and looking forward to hearing your questions and hopefully welcome to social work. It's a great field to be in.
Thank you. And then for myself, I'm Dr. Peter Allen Lee. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm currently the director of the School of Social Work and also a professor here. And I'm always excited that our colleagues can join us and all of you can join us. This is one of the opportunities we get to talk about, not just joining our profession, but really finding out what particular interests you have in serving our communities. So before we start, we're going to do just a very simple set of icebreakers. And for those of you who's like, well, I came for a Q&A, what's this icebreaker stuff, right? It's because we're social work. And so we do these types of things just to kind of know what the audience is like out there. So I'm just going to lead you through a couple of questions and you can type your answer into the chat, okay? Knowing that we have an on-campus in-person program here at San Jose State and also an online program for which we only serve California. So remember, you have to be not only a California resident, but also like living in California to do the internship and the online program. My first question to you all is, how far away are you from San Jose State? So if you would type in what you would consider your location or your home, okay? So you can type that into the chat. Where are you planning to connect from or to commute from or what have you if you come to our program, okay? So we have a lot of SoCal people, some Central Valley people, yeah, some northern folks. Thank you, thank you. I see some Orange County, some LA, Walnut Creek, Santa Cruz, Berkeley, Oakland, Denver. Okay, well, yes. I'm planning to move. Okay. Mountain View. Yep, that's just over the road a little bit there. San Diego. All those. Thank you so much. I myself am a homegrown San Franciscan. Enjoy being in the Bay Area. And for those of you who are considering coming here in person, sure you can appreciate the Bay Area. I think we're all feeling that we're still, somewhat fortunate to be in California, even though with the high cost of living and all the types of things. I just still think that California is a very beautiful place, regardless of what community that we live in. So thank you. Okay. Um, Next question. Okay. On a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being low and 5 being high, how excited are you to join an MSW program? Okay. Scale of 1 to 5, 1 being low, 5 being high. How excited are you to be joining an MSW program? 10. Okay.
Somebody
We'll
has a 10.
Fives and fours. Okay. If there's anybody that's considering like a 1 or a 2, it's like that's okay, right? Maybe you're exploring and thinking whether or not social work and graduate school is a little bit there. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So the excitement question, and then we'll talk about because like excitement and anxiety They're not necessarily like opposite poles, right? You can still be both. So the third question is going to be on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being low and 5 being high. How anxious are you about joining an MSW program? Okay. 1 being low anxiety, 5 being high. Okay. And it's okay if you have high anxiety in this, right? It's a big decision. It's something that's going to be important. So we see some a much wider range, right, of scores there. Some twos, 2.5s, some threes, some fours. Just scrolling here. Did anybody type in a 5? Okay, no one typed in. Oh, it's a couple people typed in a 5, and that's okay, right? Because like we had mentioned, it's a big commitment, and there's a lot of things that kind of go on into our process. So we just really wanted to make sure that not only as we go through our Q&A today, but hopefully you'll be using this information not only to think about our program, but also what is the best fit for any MSW program that you might be interested in, as well as other graduate programs or maybe even other career to professions if you're thinking of. Okay. Last question. If you were to join the social work profession, or maybe you're already in it, what area of specialty or population or problem are you interested in? Okay. What specialty, problem, or population are you interested in? Okay. Mental health, school social work, hospice. Okay, see that education, disability justice. Yeah, mental health, unknown, and unknown's okay. In fact, sometimes that's one of our advantages being a generalist program. Okay. Social justice and policy, everything in there. Good. Okay. Great. Well, from what you're all typing in there, as you know from looking at our material, most of these areas of specialization and areas of interest, we also have covered in some fashion. And so as you're also looking at some of the things that we do well here, also think about other MSW programs and maybe what you are interested in studying. And we are firm believers about goodness of fit. So even though we think that we have a high quality program here, we definitely want to make sure that you're looking for goodness of fit. Okay. So what we're going to do as an introduction, before we get into the actual Q&A, is that the three of us are going to be sharing a little bit about some preliminary key considerations. You might remember this from the presentation on our website if you viewed those, just so that we have some type of foundational understanding as you're thinking through this process. Okay. So for example, one of the key considerations that we had mentioned is that our diversity model, and every program should have a diversity model of some kind. Ours is called the transcultural perspective. And we don't have anything unique in terms of what is in the transcultural perspective, thinking about cultural sensitivity, cultural humility, power, privilege, and oppression, self-reflexivity, respectful partnerships, power, privilege, and oppression. These things are not new. But how we package them is something that we are very excited about, and that we infuse our model in all of the classes in our curriculum. And we're not sure if it's going to start for the admission class in fall 2026. We're hoping it will be. But in addition to the infusion of our transcultural perspective model, we are also going to be launching, or hopefully launching, our new diversity course, which will be a required course for all MSW students. Again, that's not promised to start in fall 2026, but if everything goes well with our university's curriculum committee, we might be ready to start that as soon as that. The transcultural perspective is one of the highlights of our program in terms of what something that attracts many of our students as well as faculty and staff. But it is also something that we struggle with the most, meaning if you're thinking that San Jose State has already perfected our way of doing anti-racism and social justice, nope. We're still on a journey, just like any other program or any other university, and we as individuals are on our journey. So we want to recognize that there's still quite a bit of work, whether or not we can actually truly achieve pure social justice, and accomplish all the things we want to. I mean, that is the hope, but we just want to recognize that there are still things that we're very much in process with. The other parts are more logistical as well as personal considerations. So we want to make sure that folks understand that our program about our course and program scheduling. So, for example, we use a cohort system here, both in our on-campus and in our online hybrid program. And so when folks are thinking like, I want to choose my schedule, I want to pick all my professors, I got to customize when I can go to work, take care of my family, and go to class. That is not something that we do here per se. Okay. Our online hybrid program does have its synchronous classes in the evening and online. Our in-person classes, we do have a 2-year full-time program as well as a 3-year evening only. But folks have to remember that internship requirements are during business working days and on weekdays. So oftentimes when we get applications and folks being admitted to our program and say, oh, but I can't do my internship during those days. I have to have it on a weekend or an evening, or I have to customize my schedule. We just want to make sure you know up front, we do not customize schedules, and you have to be available for your class times as well as your internship times in terms of how we already have them arranged. So be very, very, very mindful about what that means for what you need for your program. There are other MSW programs that might be more flexible and being able to customize your schedules. We do not consider our program a customizable program, although we try to provide opportunities that will still give folks a good chance in terms of what they want to study and trying to offer at least some different kind of course plans where you can still try to keep some of your working hours as well as some of your other arrangements or responsibilities. But please be very mindful about what is already programmed into our schedule and our requirements. The other one is cost of
Dr. Lee,
tuition.
may I just add something there?
Yep, Dr. Thomas, go ahead.
Yeah, one tip that I have is that before you actually sit to start your application, please review the class schedules for each of these program options. They are different and both in the first year and the second year. So you have a good, strong idea about the commitments, your work and family commitments, the academic commitments that you have, and then choose your program options. Because students often in their excitement, of applying or getting into the admissions, forget that we have kind of put up all this information up front. And after they enroll in the program, they're like, but I did not know this. I was not aware that I have to be available for classes in the second year on Mondays and Tuesdays. My work schedule does not allow that. So what I do, in preparing to submit the application, an important step is also to review the class timings, class schedules, their field schedules, and then make that decision. And all this information is there both on the SJSU the MSW website and in the application. That's really, really important as part of your preparation so that both you and we are not caught unawares after you've enrolled in the classes.
Thank you. So colleagues, just make sure you also feel free to interject. There was a comment in the chat about is there going to be opportunity to ask questions? Absolutely. We're just trying to get our foundational information here first, and then the rest of the session is Q&A. Cost of tuition. So the university, not just San Jose State, but many of the other universities have also raised the tuition for on-campus programs. So you should check out the Bursar's website to make sure. Again, the posted information for on-campus, I think, is not yet ready for fall 2026, but the fall 2025 and spring 2026 information is there. So plan accordingly. And then for the online program, it is significantly much more expensive with fee increases already built in year after year. So you need to think about your financial commitment, and also think about the pros and cons. So in the presentation, we had talked about in person for those who like to be physically with your professor and your classmates. This is something that the learning is still there and the tuition is less than the online. But then you have to factor in things like commute, time for you to make your travel, your gas, your parking, all these other types of things that we worked in. Whereas on the online, it is much more expensive, but at the same time, if you need a little bit more convenience in terms of the class scheduling, don't have to commute in terms of your classes, but you do need to think about perhaps your commute to internship, depending on where your internship is. Then there's a trade-off in terms of a little bit more convenience and flexibility in the time. versus the cost. Okay. Potential for employment, definitely in terms of MSW, there's still a shortage of social workers and a great need for social workers. Not just our program, but other universities that have MSW programs are involved in workforce development programs, for example, in public behavioral health, adult and aging services, integrated behavioral health, child welfare, and in some cases, school social work. Um, but also just keep in mind that although the MSW is something very, very much marketable, you also have to think about you might not get your dream job right away. This is something that you would work towards, and it's also depending on your geographic location. Salaries in Santa Clara County are still quite good, but that's because cost of living is extremely high here as well. Whereas if you live in a different part of the state, salaries might not be as high, but cost of living might not be necessarily as high as the Bay Area as well. But the MSW is definitely a very marketable degree and still a need. Okay. Dr. Wolf, do you want to say anything before we start with Q&A, or Dr. Thomas, anything else?
I'm
Hi,
good.
everyone. Just wanted to say, although we have those caveats of those really important things to focus on, I do think it's wonderful that you're here and that you're considering social work. Social work is a really vibrant field. There are so many opportunities. Our program is unique in that it is an advanced generalist program, which means that there are lots of opportunities for you to take in social work. And so even if you start out one place in your internships, you could end up somewhere totally different in your career. So I think that's something that's special about our program. And yeah, we're excited to hear about your questions and look forward to seeing applications.
Okay. Dr. Thomas, you want to say anything?
Dr. Wolf has pretty much said everything that I have to say. Again, I look forward to seeing all your applications, and also I know I'll meet some of you over the course of this, application time. Looking forward to meeting you and also communicating with you.
Okay, thank you. So how we do Q&A is we will both monitor the chat as well as just raising your hands in terms of the Zoom controls. And then what we will try to do also is even if we run out of time, we will still try to answer your questions, or even though the recording might be stopped, we'll stay a few minutes to see what we can do. And as a reminder, we still have another informational session on Saturday morning, as well as the materials that are posted online and additional recordings. So when Dr. Wolf was talking about we're an advanced generalist program, we have a recording on an advanced generalist. We have a recording about clinical program versus advanced generalists and our transcultural perspective, as well as specific recordings about our online program as well. So what we're going to do is thematically. So whoever asks the first question, we will pick up on that theme, answer that question, and then figure out if other people have similar questions along that theme. And then once we exhaust that, then we'll pick up another set of questions according to what folks ask. Okay. So does anybody want to raise their hand first? Elizabeth, kind of beep. Okay, you kind of win the prize there for fastest on the button. Okay, so our colleagues will also be monitoring the chat, but when we call upon you, please correct me if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, and then you can do a brief introduction if you so choose. So Elizabeth, would you like to go first, please?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, after reviewing the online materials, I was wondering, I am currently employed, but it is something that kind of correlates with what I want to do in the future, um, in social working. So in that case, it said that you can go before or submit something or go before a board to see if your job counts as part of your internship hours. How
I
would I go along with that process of determining if my current job is in line with what goes, like the internship requirements?
Okay, good question. And then also my colleagues, feel free to chime in too if you have a question that you would like to handle. So let me just start by saying that All MSW students have a required minimum of 1,050 hours of internship over 2 years. Okay. In your first and second year, we want to be able to give students an exposure to a variety of social work settings. Okay. So usually what happens is that how the placement that you have in your first year is going to be different from your second year of internship. And the second year of internship is usually correlated or placed that is a lot aligned with your identified area of interest. So, for example, well, Elizabeth, what specialty are you interested in? Let me just ask you that.
I'm interested in geriatrics.
hmm Okay. So let's say that you go into an area of specialization in aging and health or geriatrics. So we want to make sure that in your specialized year of internship and your coursework, you are actually placed in an agency that is aging focused, which means that in your first year of internship, we would like to give you something different so that you have a broader exposure to the social work profession, hence advanced generalist. Okay. Um, so then most students go through that sequence where they do an internship in an area or an agency that is something different from their identified area of interest, and then go into the internship in their final year of area of interest. For many folks who are asking about their employment, first thing is that all internship sites, regardless if it's an employment space or not, has to have a contract with San Jose State University in order to have both the liability coverage and the contractual agreement, as well as making sure that that agency site is able to provide all of the learning opportunities and the supervision that is required for our accreditation standards and, of course, for our learning objectives. So what that means is, in addition to the contract, the agency, whether it's a government agency, nonprofit, or what have you, has to have a supervisor for you that has an MSW and at least 2 years post MSW experience. They're called your field instructor. And then also the site has to be able to cover and give you learning experiences that cover our 9 competencies that are required for accreditation. So going back to your specific question, Elizabeth, and other people who are thinking about using their place of employment, contract, field supervisor, that is a social worker MSW with 2 years post MSW, as well as being able to provide those learning experiences. If your place of employment does qualify for that, you would actually fill out a petition, and petitions have a due date, and it's reviewed by the field office, and then they will tell you whether or not you can use your place of employment as an internship site. Okay, so let me pause there for a moment. Elizabeth, does that help?
Oh, yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Um, Dr. Thomas or Dr. Wolf, are there other questions online that are along this theme? And while they're looking, other folks who have questions about field internships will use that as the first theme. Okay. So I see one about how field placements are arranged. So you would want to check out how each MSW program does that. At San Jose State, it is a collaborative process, meaning that the student and the agency, well, actually, and the school have roles in how students obtain and confirm their field placements. So we have a field placement orientation in which students will understand how they can search a list of available agencies. We have both an in-person field fair and a virtual field fair. So if you're applying to our online program, if you are geographically local or can physically come to the field fair, you're welcome to do that. If you're not able to do that, we have a virtual version of our field fair. You would meet representatives from the agencies. Students come up with a selection of which agencies they would like to prioritize for a site. Agencies also come up with a list of students they would like to prioritize for an interview. They match up, and then in terms of arranging students who then interview and agencies who select, hey, that's a great candidate. then that's how we do the pairing. Compared to other MSW programs, sometimes those folks will say that the student is fully responsible for getting the internship arrangements on their own. And in some MSW programs, the school does everything, meaning the student doesn't have any part of the process in there. We do a combination of the two. Okay. Dr. Thomas, Dr. Wolf?
Um,
For those who
There
are
was
in
a
the on,
question on can they do internships? Can we take courses in the summer and winter? Sorry, I thought it was internship. Yeah.
okay, let me do that one first, and I see another one. So, for those who are on the on-campus program, there are no summer classes. That's just part of the way that the financial and the scheduling model works. So during the summer, traditionally, if you want to be able to focus on your outside employment or other types of responsibilities, there are no summer courses for our on-campus programs. That's both for our 2-year and our 3-year evening only. However, for the online program, it is 2 calendar years, including one summer. And so during the summer, you do have academic classes, but no internship. Internship happens during the traditional semester academic year portions, usually between September and May. For online students, you do have classes during the summer from June through August. Um, there,
Um,
go ahead.
there's a question about do we have any degree of choice for the first year of fieldwork or just the second year, given the generalist approach?
You do have some choice, meaning that if you're going to be choosing an area of interest that is different from the one that you're choosing for your final year, same process in terms of when you go through the field fair, you would meet the representatives from all the different agencies. You would find something of something that is of interest to you, and then you would interview in that way. So in that way, you have some choice. Um, because we want to make sure that you get to meet these representatives and see what the best fit is in that regard. There was also a question about online students and geographic location. So what we try to do is um, for those of you who, because we're based in San Jose, most of our internship relationships and opportunities are within the Bay Area. About 75% of our online students still live within the Bay Area, just that they're looking for the flexibility in terms of the class scheduling. For those who live outside the Bay Area, we have been able to find field internships that are usually no more than an hour commute geographically from your location in the online program. Again, it just depends on how many relationships and agencies we have in partnership. So, for example, if we have more partnerships with those in Southern California or Central, as opposed to maybe more rural areas or more outlying areas, then there's a little bit more choice where we have our relationships. But in general, the principle is that even if you're in our online program, we would try to find an internship that is geographically within your area and roughly about no more than an hour commute from that area. We want to remind you that we post in our information as well is that internships are not guaranteed. And we want to qualify why we say that. One is that because the students are also responsible for interviewing and matching as part of the program, sometimes what delays internship arrangements or sometimes where students will find challenges is that most agencies will also require things like background check. If you're working in a health setting or a school, you also have to think about vaccinations and immunizations. Sometimes students either do not want to do that, or sometimes students have trouble with background check. And sometimes the matching process is delayed. And so it is still up to the student to make sure that they do whatever they can to fulfill those responsibilities so that the match is facilitated. But again, we have had historically some challenges in terms of delay of being able to find internships for students, or sometimes students find out that when they, after they accepted and try to interview for these different internship sites, that they just find that they're not suited for, many of these particular type of agency and this type of work. But in general, geographically local to where you are.
Can we do internships online?
Internships, virtual internships, are not something that we offer on a regular basis. The exceptions that we've had is either if a student has a legitimate and documentable accommodation, and every university has either an accessibility education center, a disability resource center, some type of center that helps work with these situations. So we don't want to say that we can get you an internship that is virtual. Similar to, we cannot guarantee that you can have an evening internship or a weekend internship. Internships are built to be in person in an agency or a organizational setting for you to get that experience. Um, so when you apply and you can get in, you can request, but we definitely do not want to set you up into a situation where you feel that you would get it guaranteed. It's not anything that we can guarantee. If the virtual internship is something that is very high on your priority list, we recommend that you investigate MSW programs who can guarantee you a virtual internship. Dr. Wolf, Dr. Thomas, anything else on that theme?
I think we've answered most of the questions.
Okay.
Oh, there's one more, Dr. Lee.
Yeah.
If we do the online program, will we be matched with an internship in our area?
Yes, and that's similar to the question about the geographic locality. So again, we would try to match you with something that's no farther than 1 hour commute from your location. But again, there's no guarantee in terms of how close exactly first choice option for your agency, but we would definitely try to put you as close geographically as possible if you're in the online program. Okay. Um, I don't know who raised hand first, but I'll go through this and we'll try to get to everybody. So I'm gonna go with Jennifer first, please.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
I had a question because I'm still sort of debating on if the online or the on campus would be better for me. And I live in Santa Cruz County,
Mhm.
and I was wondering about, in general, how many internships are available in the Monterey Bay County versus yeah, San Jose or other areas.
Um, yes. So basically, the Bay Area and the larger Bay Area, we have quite a bit of choice. So in our on-campus program, as well as those who are on online program but are geographically local, as you radiate starting from San Jose or Santa Clara County, most of the agencies are in San Jose, Santa Clara County. But because we have students regularly commuting from Santa Cruz, some still from Monterey, um, Alameda, Contra Costa, San Francisco. I think even our person who's commuting to our on-campus program, maybe even in Marin County. So we do have agencies that are all within that. And again, using the same principle of no more than 1 hour commute, we have had students who live in Santa Cruz or in Santa Cruz County where they found an agency that they really wanted to work in like San Mateo County. And because they wanted that opportunity, they didn't mind driving that far because they really wanted that opportunity. So I think the way that I would like to start answering your question is that there is quite a bit of choice, especially because you're physically in the Bay Area, to commute to. But sometimes people choose what's like closest, and sometimes people choose it's like, hey, that's the one I want to go to, and they're just willing to travel further to get there. So does that help?
Yes, that does help. Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely willing to travel, to San Jose State and or San Jose, that whole area, Monterey Bay. Yeah, just depending on what internships are available would best fit. So thank you.
You're welcome. And then also, we put a plug into CSU Monterey Bay. Monterey Bay, of course, has an MSW program, and then they would specialize in internships that are down in that area, depending on if you're thinking about geographically local to you. All the schools have, strengths and weaknesses, and Monterey Bay has a strong program as well, if you're considering them. Okay, thank you. Other things on that theme? Okay, Stephanie, please.
This is a different theme, so if you're still wanting to work on that, I don't want to change the subject. But my question was about the online program. Are the professors the same professors as the on-campus program that teach the online courses? And also, what is the advising situation for online students?
Dr. Wolf, you want to answer that?
Sure. Hi, Stephanie. Yes, they are the same instructors in the program. So, for example, I teach. I've taught only in the online program for the last few years. So, it really is the same the same folks who do both, which is great. You would have there is an advisor, Dr. Timothy Wynn, who is the advisor for the online hybrid program and is a good contact when you're in the program for any questions, um, comments, concerns, etc. So that's who you would connect with in the program about questions related to sort of your academic courses, how those are going, etc.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, let's go to Brianne, please.
My question's more about the application, but my question was if we have to send our transcripts and have our writers send the letters of recommendation before or after we submit our main application.
Dr. Thomas, me or you?
I can do that.
Mm.
Brianna, thank you. Thank you for your questions about, the details of the documentation required for your application. My first suggestion is that we have a web page, just exclusively focusing on admissions, and I'm going to post the link there. I strongly suggest that you review all the information posted there. So you'll get an idea of, how many applications are there, what are the deadlines, when do you submit the transcript, who do you submit the transcript to, and whether it's a letter of recommendation or a recommendation form. So all the details are actually outlined very clearly there. I'll just post the link here on chat. Now, specific to your question, I think you asked about the letter of recommendation, right? So we don't have a letter of recommendation. It is a form. So when you start your MSW application, which is the second of the two applications that you have to submit, you will enter the name of your recommender, and the system will trigger a process where they send the recommendation form to your recommender and they have to submit it. And the deadline for the recommendation form is December 20th. All these deadlines are posted on our webpage. That was your first question. Can you remind me what your second one was, Brianna? I'm sorry.
It was about the transcripts
Yes,
if we should.
yes, that's a good question. Again, all transcripts go to what's called GAPE, which is our graduate admissions office. And even this information is again on the web page. Transcripts go to them. The details are outlined there. There's too much for me to say here. You are not required to submit your transcripts to the School of Social Work. The deadline to submit your transcript is December 1st, 2025. Again, when you start your application, make a note of the deadlines we've posted. The deadline for your transcript is December 1st. The deadline for your Cal State apply is December 1st. For your MSW application is December 1st, and only your recommendation is December 20th. Brianna, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah. Again, please review the webpage and make a note of all the recommendations. And there are two applications. The first one is Cal State Apply, and the second one is the MSW program application. And then you have to submit your transcripts to GAPE.
Along that theme, just some other reminders that you can do both applications at the same time. You don't need to wait for one or the other, but we highly recommend that you do Cal State Apply sooner rather than later, because it does take time to get assigned an SJSU ID number. You do need to have the SJSU ID number in order for you to finish your MSW application. It doesn't mean you need the number to start it, but you need it to be able to submit it in a complete fashion. And it takes at least what is it, Dr. Thomas?
10 days. 10 days.
Yeah, 5 to 10 working days to allow for the SGSU ID to be assigned to you. And then the other thing that is usually asked is that Dr. Thomas reminds us that there's two applications. Cal State Apply is the first one, and then the MSW specific application for our school is the second one. If you are applying to multiple programs, you need to make sure that you follow their instructions. So, for example, if you're applying to San Francisco State or East Bay, or also CSUs, they might only use Cal State Apply. So that means that when Cal State Apply asks me to do the personal statement or the recommendations through Cal State Apply, for us, you do not. You do those through the MSW application process. But for those other CSUs, you might have to. So you need to make sure that you understand the instructions specific to each university and make sure that you go through that process in that fashion. Um, there was
Dr.
a
Lee, I'll just add one more,
yeah. Hmm.
housekeeping suggestion. So for those of you who have started your Cal State Apply or are planning to start your Cal State Apply, we've also posted a Cal State Apply guide. So before you start that, you can review the guide. It's a very, a comprehensive step-by-step guide on how to start the application, what information is required, where do you submit what documentation. So please go through that guide before you start the process. It's going to be much easier if you do that.
Hmm. There was also some questions in the chat about getting an overview about the application and the application process. Dr. Thomas has reminded us about the application process about the Cal State Apply. For the MSW one, you can log in and start an account and start looking through it. And when you look through it, it actually has some very good descriptive instructions in there, so that it'll help you walk through, for example, contact information, your ranked choices of which program you're applying to. So like if you want to get into any of our programs, you might put like online hybrid first choice, 2-year second choice, 3-year on campus evening only, third choice, what have you. Um, and you don't have to choose or rank. If you only want to get into one particular one, then you only choose one option. It walks you through the social work experience portion, the recommendation form portion, and then the personal statement questions. So if you look through these just in an organized fashion before you even put in all your detailed stuff, at least you get the landscape of what it is that you need to cover. And you can look at that once you start logging in and create an account. There was a question about recommendations. Remember, Dr. Thomas had also said that it's not formal letters of recommendation. We use a recommendation form. So for those folks who have not had that much experience and basically been in school most of the time, you might have only um, access to professors. And then for those of you who have been out of school for a very long time, you might not have access to your professors anymore. You might only have like a supervisor, a colleague, a manager, somebody like that. Now, the spirit of the recommendation forms as a whole is to be able to get the idea of your suitability for the suitability for the profession, as well as your ability to be in a graduate level program. So it's both the picture of your preparation for the academics, as well as your appropriateness and your preparation for the profession. Now, it's not required that you get like one from a professor and one from a social work professional. Okay. It's recommended because together they would get the whole picture. But if the recommenders that you choose are able to give as a complete picture amongst the three, suitability for graduate school and suitability for the profession, that's what we're looking for. Okay. Um, as long as the form is completed by a professional, in other words, not like a family member, not a friend, not an acquaintance per se, but is actually a person in a position to comment from a professional standpoint, your suitability for academics and for the profession, those are the folks that you can look for in terms of your recommendation form. Okay. Um, Anything else along that theme, Dr. Wolf or Thomas? Okay. Yeah, Dr. Wolf.
Well, since we're speaking about specifics of applications. We do have some questions that some potential applicants who want to know about. And so I was going to ask Dr. Thomas to speak to this about the personal essay. Like if they are responding to the prompts specifically with the information, it's okay if it's not numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, as long as they are specifically answering the information in the essay prompts, Dr. Thomas?
Thank you, Dr. Wolf. Yes, how you structure the essay is your choice. What we look for is that you respond to all the prompts, right? And the order in which you choose to do it is left to you. Some people want to tell a story, and how do they choose to do it is, maybe quite different from the way we have kind of outlined the prompts or ordered the prompts. So that's left to you. But what we look for is actually responding to all the intentions of the prompts, right? What are we asking for? Read that carefully and respond to it. Yes, and please do respond to all the 5 prompts. So the reviewers are not going to say, look at, if you've kind of, started with, for example, the second prompt is about your professional development and professional goals, right? So if you didn't write it, if you wrote that first, we're not going to penalize you in any manner, right? Or it's not going to be a lesser personal statement because you did that. Just be sure to respond to all the prompts. Did that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, let's go to Darion. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yes, you are. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Hey, what's it called? I was looking on the online for SJSU, and I didn't see any like prerequisites. I have a bachelor's in like communication, so I wasn't sure if there were any prerequisites, but I didn't find anything about that. But I was just curious to know like if there was like anything for prerequisites at all.
Okay, great question. Me, Dr. Thomas, Dr. Wolf, or
You can start, Dr. Lee, and we can.
okay. So Darian, it's a great question. And what's happening in terms of the landscape of MSW programs is that here at San Jose State, which I think mirrors most, is that only about 30% of our students in the MSW program have a bachelor's in social work. Another 50% or so have a bachelor's degree in a related field, such as yourself, right? Or psychology, sociology, public health, education, something like child development, all those kinds of things. And there's, still a percentage like, 10 to 20%, 10 to 15% of students who have a bachelor's degree in a totally unrelated field, like engineering, journalism, music, something like that. So we used to, like back in the day, there used to be other types of prerequisites in terms of, making sure there was like a background in statistics or human biology or something like that. But the prerequisites have changed pretty much to say that as long as you have the liberal arts foundation and anybody who has a bachelor's degree in the US automatically has this coverage in liberal arts. The folks that we might need to make sure you go consult the office that Dr. Thomas was mentioning, which is GATE, Graduate Admissions and Program Evaluation, is if you have a bachelor's degree from outside of the United States. We just want to make sure, because the liberal arts, American institutions, those kinds of things are the background that we're looking for. So the specific prerequisites are not really there other than the liberal arts foundation. Pros and cons. If you have a bachelor's degree in social work, you're already familiar with some of the terminology in the field. But the disadvantage is that sometimes those folks aren't as well-rounded, because they didn't come from a different major. And then you flip that for somebody like you, where you're going to come in more well-rounded because you have a different exposure, but the social work terminology is going to be relatively new to you. But other than that, there are no specific prerequisites per se.
I would
help?
just
Yeah.
just to add to that, the only exception is if you're applying to the advanced standing program. In the advanced standing program, you have to have a BSW within the last 7 years from a CSW accredited institution. So the only exception is if you're applying to the advanced standing, you have to have a BSW degree.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Also, one more thing. Does San Jose State do spring admissions or is it only fall?
Only fall.
Okay, gotcha. So, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, good. Anything else on that theme? No? Okay, we'll go to Samantha, please.
Hi. I was just wondering if you have an estimate for what the cohort size would look like for the full-time on-campus program. I wasn't able to find any information on the website.
Are you talking about class sizes, Samantha, or are you talking about how many people we admit into the program?
Um, Both actually.
Both? Okay. That's actually a timely question because for those of you who are bachelor students in our program now, as well as maybe folks who have been kind of keeping up on the news, even though San Jose State is one of the few CSUs that has met its overall enrollment target, everybody is still facing, budget uncertainty and budget cuts. So in terms of the class sizes here at San Jose State Master's Program, in the online program, it's slightly smaller, like around 25-ish. But with the budget situation, we're probably thinking about class sizes as large as 30 to 35 in the online program, except in Capstone. Capstone is a little bit smaller. Capstone is like independent research project when you get to your final year. And your field seminars are also a little bit smaller, but the general classes could be as large as 30 to 35 in the online program. And in the on-campus program, they could be also as large as 30 to 35. And depending on the area of interest, there are going to be some classes that could be as large as 40. So 40 in a class. Okay. We are hoping that that situation will be temporary as we kind of figure out budget and hopefully like finances won't get worse. But unfortunately, with where the not only just California, but the national landscape about financing and higher education, we just want to be as transparent as possible that class sizes are not necessarily small or smaller than they used to. Okay. For our program, we are planning to admit a total of 200 a total of about 225 students into our master's program. That's across all options. So 2-year full-time, 3-year evening only, and online hybrid. So usually the question that comes related to that would be, what is the chances of getting in or the ratio of students that apply and get in? So it really depends on the application pool. So for example, if I just said we're admitting 225 students and only 225 people apply, hey, everybody gets in, right? If they're qualified, right? But if we receive 1,000 applications and we're admitting 225, right, then it's 1 in 4. So historically, it's been about like 1 in 3-ish, that kind of thing. Um, so our advice is for sure apply, because if you don't apply, you won't get in, right? If you don't apply. And then if you're looking to get an MSW from San Jose State, be as flexible as possible in terms of ranking your choices, like, those. And then if you want to get into an MSW program, period, apply to multiple programs. Yeah. So Samantha, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Okay. Are there related questions on that? Okay. Victor, I want to go next.
Yes, I'm not sure if my question was answered, but I apologize in advance if it was. So, regarding the prerequisites, if my GPA is not where it's supposed to be at the time that we need to submit transcripts, but it will be because I'm a current student right now,
Mm-hmm.
and my semester ends like the second week of December, so then my transcript probably wouldn't update until then.
Mm-hmm.
Would an automatic denial be sent to me if my GPA was below the prerequisite, or is there something I can do if there is?
Yeah. Me, Dr. Thomas? You? Me? Me? Okay.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, okay. So what happens is just so that it applies to the audience here. Remember that there are, I guess when we talk about prerequisites, we don't necessarily call them prerequisites exclusively, but like minimum requirements for application. So 2.5 overall GPA minimum to apply. There is no minimum of hours of work experience to apply. Some MSW programs have a minimum experience required before you apply. We do not. Okay. And then in terms of your question, if the university automatically denies an applicant because of the GPA, you can always petition. So you would contact the university and say, my transcripts are being updated. Can you please reevaluate? And if that doesn't answer the question, you can contact admissions here at the school to kind of figure out how we would update, that situation. There have been some situations where an applicant does not have the minimum GPA to apply. They can still appeal. Those appeals are not usually granted, but the ones that have been are usually in situations where there is like an extraordinary circumstance in which why the GPA is below the minimum, and or that this person has been working in the field and demonstrated their suitability for the profession, that the GPA really is not the most accurate marker about the success that that person would have in the profession. So even if you do not meet the minimum criteria, there's still opportunity for you to appeal and to figure out how we can uh, work out whether you can still apply.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was my question. Thank you.
Okay. I'm looking for other things along that theme. Okay. We'll look at that as we go through. But Jennifer, you had another question?
Yes, I was wondering about the stipend or stipend programs that you guys have on the Cal State Apply. I saw there was options for integrative behavioral health and a couple other options, and I was wondering what exactly those entail, and is there a difference between those and paid internships, and yeah, exactly what that would mean.
Okay. So let me broaden that out in terms of opportunities for having funding, scholarships, monetary resources for school. So there's I hope people will take advantage that even just general scholarships, like if you do an internet search for scholarships, look for anything. For example, if you're first in your family to go to graduate school, if you belong to a cultural or an ethnic community, you might even have some foundations or some folks that are donating money or providing scholarships for people who are interested in a particular area. It is definitely worth your time, even just to spend 15, 20 minutes doing a general internet search on scholarships. And some type of interest or affiliation or characteristic that you have that might merit a scholarship. So it's merit-based and then need-based. Okay. Then going to Jennifer's question, there are a couple of different ways that money is available. So the ones that you're talking about, they're called workforce development programs. And how they are different from some of the scholarships is that workforce development programs, they focus on a particular area of interest, but they also often require an employment payback. And what we mean by an employment payback is like the longest running one we've had is Title 4E for child welfare. And currently students who apply for Title 4E, so if you do that, if you do apply for Title 4E, that's a third application. That's a separate application from Cal State Apply, and also MSW application. So let's say somebody's interested in child welfare, they fill out the 4E application. If you come in as a full-time student, um, you will get $25,000 per year to pay for whatever need you have, whether it's tuition, fees, living expenses, what have you. And you get specialized training and you have certain coursework and training experiences that you must fulfill. And then upon graduation, you're required to work for 2 years in a county child welfare agency. Okay. So that is similar for public behavioral health. Public behavioral health, if you receive the money, um, then you are responsible for an employment payback in behavioral health after graduation. Aging and adult services, something similar. Some of the other ones are only like 1 year commitments instead of 2 year commitments, depending on how much funding you get. Integrated behavioral health, because it's a federal grant, we don't know if that's going to be available for your year. But hypothetically, if integrated behavioral health were available, that's a 1 year commitment instead of a 2 year commitment. And the stipend is less. It's $10,000 instead of some of the other amounts. Then there are pure scholarships. For us, we have very few social work dedicated scholarships, and they range anywhere from like a few $100s to about $2,000. The most that we have in a scholarship is for our MSW program expansion grant, and that is $4,000. And there is no employment payback for that scholarship. However, it has to fit criteria in terms of intention to go get your license for a licensed clinical social worker, to work in a high needs community, and to have specific cultural skills for that community, whether it be language skills, cultural sensitivity skills, something like that. So it just really depends on which opportunity you're looking for. Again, workforce development usually requires an employment payback. Some of the social work scholarships are money that is in less amounts, but there is no employment payback. And then some are just pure scholarships. So, Jennifer, does that help?
Yes, that does help. And where would I be able to find more information on that on a website?
I'm going to put the link on the chat.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to do a quick scan. The Pupil Personnel Services Credential Program is available in both the on-campus and in the online program. For those of you who are not able to do PPSC while you're doing your MSW, we do have a post-master's PPSC program. In terms of Dr. Wolf, help me. Is there anything in here that
I think I've been trying to be respond. So some people are re-asking questions that I've already answered. So I know that the chat is pretty busy, but if you can also look back, I did post a link that has all the information about the public behavioral health stipend, in depth PowerPoint about that. So I can post it again, but just to let you know to peruse the chat, because there might be some detailed information. So Dr. Lee, I did see some very more specific application questions about the writing sample. I don't know if you or Dr. Thomas want to speak to that, but I did see a couple ones asking about that, like whether what would be appropriate, does it need to be related to social work, etc.
Dr. Thomas, what is the word count on the personal statement?
3,000.
3,000 word limit on the
Yes.
personal statement.
Yes.
The writing sample does not have to be social work related. It could be anything.
It could be an academic paper. It could be, if you're working, in social work, it could be a client, a report you wrote. No confidential information. I mean, you know how to, judge that by now if you're in the field. It can be a report you wrote, a letter to the editor, pretty much, which is a strong demonstration of your writing skills. And if you don't have a good writing sample that you think that you can submit, you can write one for this purpose. Yeah. So the options are, there's nothing that says you have to only submit a particular type of writing sample. It's not very prescriptive in that sense, but we are looking for a demonstration of your graduate writing skills at some level. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think there's another related question. I mean, this is like a broader question about, the application itself. What do you guys highlight more in the application which gets you accepted to the MSW program?
Hey, that's like right, that's the magic question, right? And sorry, there's no magic answer. My colleagues might have a different opinion on this, but what we usually say about these types of questions about how can I make sure that I get in? Or like what are you looking for specifically so I can focus on that? And so really all the elements of the application, the reason why we include them in the application is because it's important, okay? We wouldn't put it in there if we didn't think it was important. So academic preparation, meaning your GPA, um, your suitability for the profession and for graduate school, those are your recommendation forms. Your reasons and understanding for wanting to be in the social work profession, like personal statement. and then the amount of social work experience that you have. Those are the areas that we evaluate. So our general recommendation is that wherever you have control over the amount and or the quality of those elements, make sure that you do your best. So for example, if you're concerned about your GPA and you're still in school, then do your best to get as high a GPA as possible. If you are concerned about your GPA and you're out of school, you can consider taking community college courses to raise your GPA. Okay. If you're concerned about things like your recommendations, then make sure you choose your recommenders, that you know how they're going to score you on the recommendation form, and whatever comments that are in the optional open-ended boxes that they would put some comments in there that would be favorable to you. So you have control over who you choose as a recommender. Work experience. Again, if you were to do things like, if you're not sure if you have enough experience, then continue to accrue experience. Remember, it does not have to be paid experience. It could be volunteer, internship, and or paid. And social work related means that it has to be something directly influencing well-being of others. It does not necessarily have to be a social work agency, but it does have to be something that is aligned and consistent with what we has as our mission as a social work. And so that's why we ask you to describe your social work experience through the resume as well as the form that's in the application. Um, and then your personal statement is definitely within your control too. So it's okay for you to talk to alumni. It's okay to, get help in terms of like, hey, have somebody read over your personal statement. These are fine. But the thoughts and the experiences, they really need to be yours, right? The work on the personal statement at the end of the day has to be yours. And so the Dr. Thomas, you would probably know this the latest figures better than I do. My understanding is that, again, this is average. It doesn't mean that once you meet this, you automatically get in, but on average, okay, GPA of students coming into our MSW program is about a 3.3.
3.3 to 3.5. Yeah.
Mhm. The amount of social work experience for those that we admit is about 2,000 to 2,500
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah, we do get significant social work experience.
Yeah. Personal statements are outstanding in terms of quality and content, and then recommenders, they're all high. Okay. So, however, with that being said, just because a person has a 4.0 does not mean they'll automatically get in, right? If they don't demonstrate any type of familiarity with the profession, poor personal statement, zero experience, even a person with 4.0, they often don't get in. A person with 10 years of experience is not necessarily automatically get in either. So it's really the combination of those things as a package in what we're looking for. So there can be different combinations of that, right? It could be high GPA, um, convincing personal statement, and very little experience, right? It could be very low GPA comparatively, but oodles of experience and very high recommendations, right? So there is no magic formula for any particular any particular magic combination per se. You have to do whatever you can in your application within your control to give you as much and as high quality as possible for those 4 areas that we're evaluating. So, Dr. Wolf or Dr. Thomas, you want to elaborate on anything on that? Okay.
I think a related question is what's the difference between a resume and a work experience? Uh,
You want to answer that one, Dr. Thomas?
Yes, I can. So that's a good question, actually. So in the MSW application, we do ask you to submit a resume and also outline your work experience. Really, the purpose of both of them are slightly different. So in your resume, what we are looking for is kind of a concise, informative document about your background, skills, your accomplishments, and your qualification. So it would essentially have your contact information, your professional summary, your work experience, your education, if there's some accomplishments, awards, accomplishments, anything that you want to highlight. And also if you've, any specialized skills. For example, someone might have, say, research skills. You worked with a faculty member on some advanced research. You could put that in your resume. Whereas in the work experience part of the application, what we're looking at precisely is to review or look at your professional work experience, right? Your work history, so to speak. So this actually details your professional history, and what we look for is your job title, the organization's name, your dates of employment, and the hours that you've been employed there. So that's it's a detailed look at your professional history, and most of it is related to social work or social work related experience. Please add experience there that's specifically related to social work or social work related, jobs, and it can be either volunteer employment or as an intern. Like we typically do not consider retail or restaurant experience, and all these details are clearly outlined in the application, including how to fill the hours. How do you complete the work hours that we require in the work experience part of the application. So that is the difference. Yeah. And usually I do, when I meet some applicants, I tell them, please pay attention to how you, populate or enter the work hours, because we see a lot of errors and mistakes there, and that doesn't really speak well about your application. Take time to review that part, to actually make notes, to compute your work hours and see if they actually compute. Sometimes we get applicants who worked for, 60 weeks in a year, right? So although the system will catch you, like be aware of these details. It does tell us a lot about your application.
And I'm just doing a brief scan. I think I said something like 225 total admissions. Of those 225 total admissions, we're looking at about 125 online in the online program. Are there opportunities for students to take graduate level courses outside of the School of Social Work? Yes, there is, but you would have to make sure that you talk to the advisor first. So in the on-campus program, that would be Dr. Thomas. In the online program, that would be Dr. Nguyen. And basically what it is that the reason why you have to speak to an advisor first about courses outside of the School of Social Work is because we need to make sure that it is going to fulfill a curricular requirement, either for an elective or a subject matter, and that the units will be legitimately counted towards your degree. Um, One of the advantages of being in the on-campus program is once you pay your tuition, you can take as many units as you want, in terms of so for example, if you take the required courses for the MSW degree and you want to take more courses outside of that because you have lots of time and energy, you can do that. Whereas in the online program, you pay per unit. So it doesn't mean you can't take other courses outside of the MSW program in the online program, but it does cost you more because you're paying per unit. So if you're thinking in that direction, just make sure that you speak to an advisor first. Philip, go ahead.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, I was just wondering if uh, for the work experience, if your department considers teaching, like I've taught ESL, English as a second language, is that relevant? Does that qualify as relevant social work experience?
Dr. Thomas, me or you?
You can start, Dr. Lee. I can add to that.
Okay, so that's a great question. That's a common question that we get. So the way that we would try to explain that, and you can still put it on your application and we can judge what that is. For anybody who has teaching experience, if it is more aligned to purely delivering curriculum or content, we would not consider that social work experience, social work related experience. It's definitely important and noble work, because teaching in itself is another one of those professions that is undervalued, unfortunately, but that's important. Um, but if a teacher or an educator does something in terms of how they provide a service as to like a population or a client. So, for example, an educator that is also running parenting groups or is running like an after school type of programming in order to address other types of needs that are beyond the curricular content teaching, then we would consider that as related. It depends on if we would count those hours one to one or if it's a partial credit, depending on how it's described and what those education positions are. But again, the general idea would be pure delivery of content or curriculum is not social work related. Anything that is advancing more of a um,
Social
programmatic
justice,
intention. Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Thomas. Would be
social justice related, working on um, advocacy on behalf of the, disenfranchised or a marginalized community. How you would connect that and how you detail those skills actually matters. So how we count that would also depend on how and what you choose to highlight over there. Yeah, but if it's just delivery of material or it's teaching assistance, we don't consider that as social work related work experience, you know.
Okay, thank you.
There's another question that says, I'm taking a statistics class now at West Valley College. Will I get credit for this class?
No,
No,
not to
no credit. Yes,
not to replace an MSW level research course. No.
yes.
Yeah.
That's an undergraduate course, and you will not get credit. It'll if that question is, will it count towards your transcript submission for evaluating your GPA? Yes, it will. So there are two elements to that question. If it is to count it towards, supposing some applicants have lower GPAs and then they take community college classes to raise their GPA, yes, definitely that'll count. Yeah. But if it is as a transfer or a substitution for a master's level course, no, it does not count.
But we do not require a statistics class in our
And
program
we
anyways.
don't require, there's no prerequisite of a statistics course. Yeah.
So sorry, how I answered it in the chat was just that it would count as terms of your units and just your GPA. But we don't require a statistics class.
The next question is, what is the approximate ratio of macro, meso, and micro focus of the generalist program?
You mean in terms of the coursework or in terms of internships or which one, Dr. Thomas?
It just says this approximate ratio of macro, meso, and micro focus of the generalist program. So I guess it's both the coursework and internship, because the question is about the program itself, right? I don't know, maybe the person can clarify. This is Stephanie.
Hi, it was
Stephanie?
mine. Yeah. Thank you. I guess I know, it's more of a generalist program than a clinical focused program. So I just wondered, yeah, coursework, and I mean, assuming that field work would be a little bit more our choice. So I guess I just mean the program as a whole, as far as coursework and the approach to the courses. If it's kind of evenly divided, policy stuff and community individuals, or I don't know if that makes sense, but.
Okay. Dr. Wolf, me or you first?
You can start, Dr. Lee.
Okay, so all of our content keeps in mind those three domains, right? So some of the related questions that will come from that is that if a person did have a clinical interest or direct practice and they say, I want to get licensed after, definitely our internships and our coursework covers that type of work. So for example, we have internships in clinics, hospitals, mental health centers, those kinds of things. In terms of then the coursework, we do not offer specific courses in therapy or counseling techniques, but our coursework does cover work with individuals. Then in terms of macro, our policy courses are macro based. Our human behavior as well as our practice courses also have both group and community type of curriculum content in it. If we were to look at the type of internships for macro, though, they're not as plentiful as the other types of internships, but it's not impossible to get or to ask for. That is one area of our curriculum and our internships that we're trying to expand over time because more students are interested in the macro level. But we're not also considered a macro specialist program either. So if you're interested in if you know that you want a career in, legislature or government or something like that, there might be other MSW programs suited for that. But that doesn't mean that we don't teach that content or that we don't offer some opportunities in that area. Dr. Wolf?
Yeah, I'll just add on to that. I personally think our program is really well poised to get people to a very versatile possibility of outcomes. And I think that's really important because, through our online program, we do serve people in some rural areas or areas that are very underserved with MSWs. So I have many, many students in the past who have thinking they're going to take only a clinical response and a clinical future, and they're supervising and sort of moving on to administration or leadership positions a lot more quickly than they think, because there is such a need in the area in which they are. And I also have people who weren't interested in clinical work and end up getting their LCSWs. So compared to other programs, I would say I think we thread the needle really well in that there are opportunities to sort of pick your focus on what you want to do, but you still have that versatile degree, which is nice if you change the population that you want to work with, particularly if you work in an area where there maybe aren't as many job opportunities, but you have this advanced generalist specialty in your program, so you're not so someone won't say, "Hey, you've only done aging," or "Hey, it says children and families here." I think it gives you a nice versatile option there. But absolutely, many of our students do pursue clinical work, and a lot of that is learned sort of after the MSW and in the job and in that process. So I would say I know students and people who've been to a lot of MSW programs, and a lot of them are all of them say like, "Hey, I feel prepared, but it's still a learning process that continues after your program."
Just to add to that, so if you're an applicant who is coming in with, say, significant public policy or macro experience, and then you're coming to kind of enhance those skills, or you're coming in with significant like clinical skills, exclusive clinical skills, and you're coming in to say, okay, I'm going to kind of want to sharpen this, refine this, maybe then this is not the program for you, right? So I've had 2 or 3 situations in the past where the students came with that, like really advanced public policy skills, and then the student did feel that this is not serving my need. So it also depends where in your professional or academic pursuit you are right now. So if you are coming in that, I have this much policy experience, I need an advanced degree, a master's in that. Maybe a generalist social work program is not the program for you. You should look at public policy or some other degree. And if it's a clinical, like you have clinical skills and you want more clinical skills, then this is not exclusively a clinical social work program. Yeah. To consider these nuances also.
So what we're
Thank
going
you
to
so much.
do
That was an excellent answer, and I appreciated your help. Thank
So what we're going to do, because we only have a few minutes left on the formal time, is I'm going to ask my colleagues, and I will join as well, for any last words of advice as we close. And then what we're going to do is have our conclusion and then end the recording. And then if folks still have questions afterwards, we'll stay for a few minutes to try to make sure we address those. Okay. So we're just going to have last words of advice. So Dr. Wolf or Dr. Thomas, you want to go first?
Probably I'll go, Dr. Wolf. Yeah. So, Dr. Lee, all the meta advice I'm going to leave to you. Mine is going to be just the housekeeping nuts and bolts, because that's where, I think, that's the best advice I can give, because I see most of your applications. So I would say a couple of things. Before you start your application, please spend some time in reviewing all the information, the school web page. Start your MSW application, look at the information there before you actually start filling in the information. Instructions are important, and I can't tell you the number of times I see applicants who has completed one application and missed out the other one. We can do nothing to help if that happens, because that's the policy requirement of the university, right? We can't step in to do anything. So read the instructions carefully. Um, uh, and for the next thing is, of course, your GPA and your application, your transcripts. Follow up on your transcripts. There are instructions on how to submit your transcripts. Follow up. No one's going to do that for you. It's your responsibility. After the first, we have applicants calling to the, front desk saying, "Have you got my transcripts?" It's literally impossible for us to do that. We have sometimes more than 1,000 applications. We're not going to follow up on your transcripts. Neither does GAPE. It's your responsibility, right? The next one is your recommendations. Follow up with your recommender after the forms have gone out. They're busy people, they're academics, they're managers, they're supervisors, and probably at this time of the year, they're getting a lot of requests, right? Follow up and see if the recommendations have been submitted. Your application will tell you that. Start and choose your recommenders wisely. Choose people who can speak to your skills, not just, do the evaluation and not really write specific, comments on who you are, your work experience. We really want to see who you are in that application, not just through your voice, but also through your colleagues, through your professors, through your managers and supervisors. So choose your recommenders really carefully. And when you write your work experience, pay attention to the details. It matters. We see all the errors that are there in your application, and that does say something about who you are as a professional. This is a competition. There are a number of people applying for limited spots, so pay attention to the details as far as your work experience goes. And finally, the most important part of your application is your personal statement. If all the others are just, your GPA is a number, these are all quantitative indicators. The personal statement is your voice, right? Tell us who you are. Why do you want to be in this profession? What do you bring to the profession? And what do you aspire to be, right? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? We really want to hear that in a powerful and compelling manner. We want to see the transitions, check for grammar, check for spellings, for typos. And finally, I can't tell you the number of applications I see where the personal statement is written for CSU Monterey or, some other university, and the applicant has not even edited out the information, right? So review your personal statement before you submit it. And finally, submit your application on time, check for the deadlines, start your Cal State Apply application on time. Whew, that's a lot, but I think these are important, details that every applicant needs to know. And I wish you nothing but the best, and I really look forward to seeing all your application.
Wolf?
Yes, I'll just really quickly, because we're at time, just wanted to say we need social work more than ever right now. Continues to be an compelling and important field, and I applaud you for considering it. And just to let you know that applying to graduate school is a big deal, the thought that you're considering it, you should congratulate yourself for considering it, for having it part of your worldview, and for being open to making that important change for yourself and try to improve your learning in life. It's fantastic. And I need to listen to everything Dr. Thomas said, but know that you can do it, you can apply, see what happens, and we hope to see you in social work.
Yeah, thank you. And the last word of advice, which was also on the informational session recording, is really thinking about goodness of fit. Not No program can be everything to everyone, and the students who really thrive in our program are those similar to what Dr. Thomas and Dr. Wolf are saying. We need social workers, folks that are willing to learn, but also understanding that it's going to take effort. It's a serious commitment in terms of time, energy, both mental and physical energy, finances, and then also your network of support. I mean, like your family, your friends, it's a huge commitment. And every program offers something different. So find out what we do well. And I think we do quite a few things well, but there are also weaknesses in our program. We try to be as transparent as possible about that. And find out from other programs what they do well and what they need to work on as well, and then apply to the ones that you think you would enjoy being in and would be a good fit. So if you find that San Jose State will be a good fit for you, we would love to have you here. And if you feel that there's a program that is better suited for you and your needs, you're still pursuing a profession in terms of what we need, especially in today's society, in today's world. So even if you don't come to San Jose State, we hope that you will continue to think about improving our society and the well-being of others. So, on behalf of San Jose State, our College of Health and Human Sciences, and of course our School of Social Work, we want to thank you for spending your time today. And for those of you who are listening to this as a recording, thank you for getting to the end of this. And we hope that this has been helpful. So thank you very much and enjoy your time and best wishes.